We are having Susanna Hasenoehrl. She's an international keynote speaker on sustainable business as well as Director Asia at Yara International, being responsible for growth and commercialization of companies, digital farming solutions, and sustainability. Her previous career spanned global leadership roles at Siemens, Nokia, and leading startups in life science and technology in Asia and Europe. And at one point, she even went to found her own startup, Joyce. Let's hear what brought Susanna from mobile and digital industries to agriculture today. And what else does the Singapore-based mother of two have in store for aspiring female leaders in this space? Floor is yours, Susanna.
Thank you very much, Deepak, for the warm welcome and for arranging this amazing event. I think there's so much we can learn from all these wonderful women, and I'm very honored to be part of them. Deepak, could you please confirm that you can see me and hear me well as also see my slides?
Yes, sure.
Very good. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you, wherever you are. As pointed by Deepak, I would like to share with you a little bit about my journey of where, but perhaps most importantly, why am I where I am today? I started my career some 20 over years ago in Bangkok, working for Siemens at this big blue office building. I was a fresh business graduate, and little did I actually know about the telecommunication business that I was about to enter into. When I was having chat with my colleagues, most of them engineers, from time to time the topic of microwave popped up, and I thought it would be a kitchen appliance. But soon enough, I found out that wasn't quite the case in that context, but rather microwave was one of the very fundamental mobile telecommunications transmission technologies. And rather than a microwave in the kitchen, it would be associated with equipment like this. Since then, I've come quite a far in terms of covering a few geographies as well as roles in the global technology business and digital business as well. At some point in time, as an example, I was working in mobile advertising or kind of building that business in year 2006, 2007 or so. I doubt Facebook was invented at that point in time, and Google certainly wasn't serving any ads to our mobile phones yet. But as I became a mother myself in my early 30s, some greater responsibilities started to dawn on me, together with some challenges. You know, feeding a family and being a working professional is not an easy treat. And although I put quite a lot of love into it, trying to induce my children into the world of healthy eating, we know as parents that this task is matched with quite a few challenges. You know, especially if you're working parents, say, in the Western world or also elsewhere, you know, it's quite a difficult choice to be made daily, as in answering the question, what's for dinner? You know, picky eaters, time pressure, considerations about this provenance and way of producing the food are on our mind all the time. So really this daily banal question of what's for dinner actually becomes quite a big one if you want to give all these different elements of our food choices a consideration, not to mention what will your children actually eat. There's also the context of overweight and obesity, which is quite a traumatic phenomenon around the world. We have 42 million children under 5 that are obese or overweight. Roughly the same amount of children that are stunted because of malnutrition and too little calories and nutrients as well. As someone who loves sports, watching children who cannot move properly or who cannot run properly because of too much weight really breaks my heart. But at the same time, I know it's not always easy for families to nourish themselves in a healthy and also sustainable way. Coming from a technology background, I actually had to think of a technology solution for this. You know, for almost everything, there is an app. So could we solve this problem of feeding families, answering the perennial what's for dinner question through tech? So I went on to devise a new service called Joys of Cooking to always have an answer to the question, what to cook, what to eat tonight. So I devised a new kind of search engine for foods and recipes. And in the cooking context, it would start with 3 simple questions. How much time do you have for cooking? What kind of veggies do you have in the fridge, or which ones do you like if you're about to go shopping? And what else might you want to have in your diet? Whether you're vegetarian, vegan, pescatarian, or whatever other combination there is. So this then built on a new kind of nutritionally grounded search engine. And we also went on with a group of dietitians and nutritionists to create some further choices that could help families to address their nutritional health objectives, such as, you know, boosting our energy, giving us the right vitamins for our eyes, or improving digestion. There is evidence to show that specific nutrients contribute to each of these goals. So this was yet another layer of search that we added on top of the question, what to eat tonight, and how could we actually do that in a way that is beneficial for the family. And so as a technology approach, we took a couple of 100,000 of recipes, fed in our algorithms, and rated them all for this. So this was a part of my efforts to alleviate the childhood obesity problem in the world by solving a very practical problem in so many families and also parents' lives. And I was quite happy tinkering with that for quite some time, although I need to say not as successfully as I would want it to be. But 3-4 years ago, something changed. I traveled to my home country, Finland, as we would want to do every summer, not this summer, not last summer, but a couple of years ago, we were able to do that. And it was a beautiful summer day. Doesn't get any more idyllic than that in Finland on the summer. I was sitting on a pier, enjoying the day, watching over my children and their cousin playing in the water. It was really quite perfect, the perfect summer day. Yet somehow I started to get the feeling that something was horribly wrong. I couldn't quite put the finger on that day, that moment. Nothing actually happened there. But the next day, we had to leave Finland to return to Singapore, to go back to school, to go back to work. And my parents sent me this picture. As a matter of fact, that summer day, that summer month had been actually not one of the hottest in the history of Finland. It had never been so warm for such a long period of time. And as a result, this green bacteria had developed in the lake. It's toxic and it renders the waters not enjoyable for humans and animals. And it's a direct consequence of global warming. So what this told to me, that really there is no escape anywhere from climate change. And something shifted in me. You've perhaps seen this picture. Even though we really need to fight today fiercely against COVID, and I think ultimately to learn to live with it, there are bigger challenges that we need to tackle. Climate change and the following biodiversity collapse being the major ones. They're bigger than COVID, but unfortunately there is no vaccine for them. The outlook, in my view, is really quite perilous. If we continue with business as usual, we'll be losing a lot of agricultural years at +2 degrees Celsius. In cereals, we lost about 10% in the past decade already. In my lifetime, the fish are expected to die if we continue on the +3 degrees trajectory that we're today. And that will unavoidably lead to huge problems with people movement, displacement in the search for safer places. I mean, already today we're reminded of these huge risks, whether it's the small town of Lytton literally burning in a span of few minutes in Canada because of too much heat and forest fires, or the Mexican Gulf being burning because of a gas leak. I mean, let's take this very seriously and start changing things urgently. This is not really the future vision that I want to leave for my children or their children. Agriculture obviously plays a role, but we should not culpabilize the farmers. They work very hard already. We should help them. So when an opportunity presented itself for me to join Yara, the crop nutrition company for the future that works with some 20 million farmers around the world, helping to feed about 241 million people in this world with 16,000 employees in 160 countries of operation or so. I was glad to join them. And I joined the digital farming part of the organization here in Singapore some 2.5 years ago. A fun group of diverse talent, actually from around the world and from around Asia. Lots of women in this young and vibrant and technologically savvy team that also likes to celebrate. But let's come back to the topic of women in agriculture, here in Asia especially. There are so many females and women that work in agriculture, 6 to 7 days a week under the scorching heat, doing a lot of hard labor. And a lot of the work that women do is kind of also invisible, because when it comes to educational opportunities or commercializing the produce, women are often left behind. Even at Yara, when we educate farmers, often we do not get many women there because it's not practical, societally accepted. We know there are ways to make women welcome and come and speak with us to improve their knowledge of agriculture, but it's sometimes a bit difficult to scale. But there are some solutions. So even if we know women face a lot of these advantages working in agriculture, we know that digital can help them a lot. Digital agricultural and related services can help women to sell their produce. They can bypass the societal norms that often affect them in the digital space. And digital can put them into a place of knowledge about market prices and best agricultural practices. We know women are keen to use digital. They are digitally savvy. And we know that digital has the power to empower women and to uplift them and to give this back to the communities, to the children. Yara has developed a range of digital solutions for farmers, including female farmers. FarmGo is a solution that we're going to launch soon in India, as an example, building on the success of the Yara Farm Weather app. We learned when millions of people downloaded our Farm Weather app that women especially like to share weather information with their family and with their friends. because so many farming decisions depend on weather. So they wanted to empower their community members, their family members, with the best weather information that is presented in a way that is relevant for farmers. So building on this, Yara has built a range of new features to help women farmers and other farmers to interact with each other digitally, to support each other, and also to learn from experts. Here's a picture of what this looks like very soon on the App Store. You can get it on Google Play very soon. So at Yara, and also my personal mission is really to empower female farmers to transform lives. And here we have an example of a coffee grower in Karnataka in India, where Yara is also working a lot with female farmer producer organizations with the explicit goal of empowering female farmers. Another example is from Himachal Pradesh, where we work also heavily on the ground with apple growers. And to ease the communication and interaction with women, we actually have female agronomists on the ground who are very qualified, but also who know how to best support other women. And just as a further reference, Yara, a global company, the crop nutrition space, also our global head agronomist is a lady from Brazil, actually. But I would also like to talk a little bit about carbon and what it takes to transform agriculture into a more smart, climate smart one. Now we know that the adoption of new methods, farming methods, can be sometimes difficult and costly. So that's why Yara has launched the Agoro Carbon Alliance with the mission to generate carbon credits out of agricultural practices and then to channel a significant part of those revenues that are generated on the international carbon markets back to the farmers, so that they actually have a financial reward on the long term, not just to adopt, but to keep applying climate smart farming practices. We know it's not easy. We know it can also cost money. So Agoro Carbon Alliance, together with our partners, is there to support farmers, also in places like India, also small farms, in adopting climate smart farming practices and to reward the farmers for that. I also wanted to share a little bit more about some of the other things I do. It's not just agriculture that needs to be transformed and decarbonized. All industries need to be transformed. And that's why I also speak at many, many international conferences and also give keynotes on topics like greenwashing. That is so rampant today. Many companies are talking about 2050 net zero pledges, which to a degree are quite meaningless if we don't take action now. Many brands are marketing them as much more sustainable than they are. I think we need to call them out. But as a speaker, I also help companies to adopt new strategies and tactics and actually help them to become more sustainable and climate friendly. I obviously did this a lot in person before COVID. Now, most of these things are online, as you can understand. I would also like to highlight one special person who is Matthew Ho. He's a startup entrepreneur here in Singapore that has developed a very sophisticated indoor farming system for households and commercial properties. And the very smart thing about this is that you don't actually need to have any farming knowledge to grow your lettuce or herbs or microgreens, because Matthew has thought of this for us. And not only does he supply the seedlings, but also all the nutrients. So basically, we as consumers just need to switch on this system. Looks very nice. I'm waiting to get mine. It's a brand new system into my living room and start growing my own greens here in my living room in Singapore. And the added benefit of this is really that it saves a lot of transportation cost as well as packaging cost. The plastics in the oceans and rivers are really yet another epidemic that we need to tackle with. So if you have, aspiring or budding entrepreneurs in your communities, I also encourage you do the same. Help them to grow their business, because I know from my own experience, it can be so difficult and they can need all the help that we can give them. Finally, I would like to leave you with one question. The reason why I'm doing what I'm doing is that I want to leave a desirable future for my children. Here, my older daughter. I really think that we owe this to our children and their children and all the other children in this world. That is my why. That is why I keep doing what I'm doing every day. But please find yours. What is your why? To me, it's about impact. Everything I do should have an impact. And that's why I'm here today. And happy to collaborate with you. Please do reach out if you are an interested startup entrepreneur, if you're thinking of getting into agriculture, if you are in agriculture, to reach out, make use of this community. I'm there to assist you as well. Thank you, Deepak, for the opportunity to speak.
Thanks a lot. Very well articulated, and definitely, it's a very motivational journey which you had. And the last 2 points, we are doing it for our next generation, because as it is said, that our nature and all the resources provided by the earth is a loan from our next generation to us. So let's ensure that we don't misuse this loan which has been given to us. And Susanna, thanks a lot. It was a pleasure having you on this session. Now, there are a couple of questions actually coming from the audience. First thing is that what they're asking is that the access to information is always patchy in Southeast Asia. And is Yara also working on making digital content available in the local languages to the women and even the men farmers on the good agriculture practices and sustainable practices going forward?
Very much so. So the digital services that we provide in India are available in a number of local languages. I cannot remember the exact number, but something like 10 languages, because we know, even if English is perhaps the universal lingua franca, agricultural content and practices don't necessarily translate it to it. And we really want to keep the access barriers as low as possible. So we do invest a lot into localization to make it as relevant and as easy to understand for everyone. And another point that I'd like to highlight is also the technical aspect of developing services that use the minimum of bandwidth. We know that many people, or most people, are on prepaid phones, so every bit costs money. We also know that in some parts of the rural areas, the data coverage is not so good. So we put a lot of effort into engineering our services so that they consume the least of bandwidth, so that they can be used at the lowest cost and even at kind of basic data connectivity. In places like Africa, where smartphone penetration is not as high as in Asia, and where data connectivity is also much poorer, we also deploy a lot of our services across SMS and even USSD technology, which works as long as you have signal, even without a data connectivity.
That's very fair articulation, and from someone who is being a pioneer in mobile industry, I believe you know all the right dots and full stops and commas. Susanna, I would also request you if you can stop sharing your presentation so the audience can see you full screen while you talk. Yeah, that's awesome. Because I love your background, right? It's such a beautiful uh, antique piece. Would you like to talk a little bit about it? It's so beautiful.
Well, this is a door to ancient Chinese village, I believe. At least that is how I was told that it represents when I purchased it many years ago when I was living in Bangkok. As you heard, and it's really a piece of decoration that has traveled with us once from Bangkok to Germany and then from Germany back to Singapore. And I think if there is one piece of Asia that I will always carry with me wherever I live, this is it.
Perfect. So now the next question, again, this is from the audience. The Green Revolution has always been talked about a big success. Right, definitely when it comes to yields and food security, it surely is. But when it comes to making farmers more sustainable and profitable, it has created more challenges going forward because of cost of cultivation has increased. The question is that, do you see that digital agriculture also going the green revolution path where the world will get benefit, but the farmers, especially in the developing world, would be short charged?
Yeah, there are a lot of different challenges in, let's say, rewarding the farmers for all the hard work that they do. One being that although we have a segment of consumers that is clearly, paying a premium for sustainably produced foods, that could still grow, and obviously there is the question of food affordability, for many other people as well. I personally think that it's quite important to create the right kind of policy environment where the more beneficial practices are promoted, and those that are less beneficial are prohibited. But obviously we need to look at the financing function as well as to remove false subsidies that distort the allocation of various input materials. So, if one material is subsidized but doesn't necessarily lead to good yield outcomes or to good environmental outcomes, I strongly believe such subsidies should be removed. So that the investment flows towards practices and input materials that yield the best results. And on that note, I do believe that the carbon markets that actually kind of monetize sustainable farming practices can play a big role here. And in the past weeks and months, we've seen the voluntary carbon market prices go up very high. In Europe, we are at over 50 euros per ton on the voluntary carbon markets, and the estimates are these prices will go up as greenhouse gas emissions will become more limited in a variety of markets.
So this is a follow-up question on because of my experience. For example, in Indonesia and Thailand, right, and even in some parts of India, you'll find that some of the nutrients being provided, the typically also that design and with scientific input, right? For example, 19 or 0016, those type of inputs which Yara brings on table. Unfortunately, when they have to compete with subsidized product, which actually are just pushing nutrients which might not be required for a specific type of crop, right? Do you see those challenges for a company like Yara, who have been always innovators and try to be more sustainable, right? Facing challenge when you have a low-cost subsidized product, which might not be environmentally friendly or which might not be optimum for the crop. So how do you see those challenges being taken care of by a company like Yara?
I mean, obviously, as I mentioned, such subsidies can kind of distort the decision making. But even in such an environment, better quality inputs usually lead to higher yields and also a higher farmer income. As such, Yara is fully capable of living in such an environment. But it's too bad, obviously, that such distortions exist on the market, and in many other geographies, cash transfers have been preferred as the better solutions versus subsidizing specific inputs.
Fair enough. I think those who are from policy and government side, if they're listening to this, I believe the better option is to get money in the accounts of the farmer in case you want to help them, rather than giving them subsidies on something which might not be as good for the society at large. And now that brings me to a question where actually on my personal experiences, there is a sector of women which interact with the farmers in form of agri-businesses, right? So if you go to Indonesia, if you go to Philippines, you'll find that in most of the cases, the shops of retail, right, which sell these agri inputs are generally, they say, meant by women, right? And they are the, like, you know, last mile access to a lot of input companies with the farmers. Do you have also some digital tools to enable these agri-businesses so that they become more efficient and they are able to disseminate right sort of information to the farmers rather than directly going to the information through a mobile in farmer's hand?
Very much so. So one of the digital solutions that Yara has also rolled out in India and other Asian countries is called Yara Connect. And it's a solution that connects Yara as a producer with the distributors and the retailers. So one of the advantages of this connectivity is that we can actually, you know, kind of push the right information about right crop nutrition products as well as other agronomic knowledge straight to the retailer that can kind of replay to the farmers, if you like. And Yara also has, you know, lots of Yara crop nutrition centers that also make use of this connectivity around India. So, and empowering the distribution channel, the retailers, is also very much in our focus in India and other countries in the region.
And what would be a message, last question, to all the young women out there who want to get into agriculture?
Well, give it a try. I think even working in agriculture, we have agricultural experts, agronomists, and so on. There's so many other skills that are needed, whether you are a marketeer or a salesperson or a technology person. There's so much to do to help to transform agriculture, to make it more efficient and to make use of digital technologies in particular. We're also hiring a lot, so you could look our way as well with such skills.
Thanks a lot for participating in Women in Agriculture Web Summit. I'm pretty sure that the audience would have had a very insightful and interesting session. I loved it. With all the years in agriculture, I still find what you talked very refreshing. And the best piece was that, like, you know, the most influential technology of modern era, that's mobile technology, being used in agriculture, and that to promote sustainability and gender equality. Thanks a lot for your time. It was a pleasure to have you as a speaker. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Deepak.